Welcome to Modern Morality. My name is Mikey, and I'm joined here by John
Hello, everyone.
and Johnny.
Hello.
Thank you for listening, and we hope that you enjoy. All right, John, I have a question for you.
Okay.
How does one lead with morality? How do you incorporate morals into leadership?
I'm going to go back to Johnny's introduction to this series, where he said that the golden rule is a good place to start. And I think that's the same thing here. When I'm dealing with someone, I want to treat them the same way I would like for them to treat me. If I were in their position, what would I want somebody to say to me or to do for me?
All right, Johnny, you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think we're missing something there. So it depends on the relationship. It depends on if you're working for an employer that, for instance, that looks at people as a resource, a tool, versus as a person. If you look at it as a person, you're absolutely spot on. But a lot of times the employees themselves are looking to be given explicit direction. They're not looking to imply what you expect out of them.
Yeah, I can actually, in just my personal experience, I can say that there's a lot of truth in that. One of the things that we talked about, Johnny and I have talked about in our personal discussions, is the difference between leaders and worker bees. There are people in this world who can't do anything unless you tell them to, or they don't put the initiative in order to grow. And I think leading with morality helps you determine which or who is which, and then after that you can help build them to whatever level they aspire to be. So one of the other things I wanted to talk about is just overall leading a team. So you have leadership with individuals, which is a lot of relationship building, but how do you effectively lead a team while also being moral to the company, organization, the team, or anybody else in that organization?
Well, the answer may be actually in that caveat I was mentioning. Maybe the morality starts with the organization and how they're viewing the employees. I feel like your people make you or break you. And I feel like that if you treat them as John was describing, using the golden rule, that they will make you. If you don't, they will certainly resent and end up breaking you.
I think that goes to one of the next points, is hiring and firing. If there is that much of a symbiotic relationship between the two, then when or how much leeway do you give somebody before you say, hey, you're not a good fit for the team, where that decision to fire is a good decision? Or how do you hire somebody who has that personality to fit in with that team, who already has that moral stance that you and whoever that person may be can what's the word I'm looking for? Can coexist effectively.
So you spin off two thoughts for me there, Mikey. One is it starts with hiring, and you don't always get it right because you can't learn everything about someone in a 30-minute to 1 hour interview, even if you have a few of those. But one thing I like to do there, and we can come back to it if you wish, is that I like to include the rest of the team members. You've got to make sure it's going to be a good fit. You got to make sure there's mutual respect. You don't want somebody that's just telling you what you want to hear in an interview, because then they'll tell you that on the job. What you want is you want honest feedback, and you want open feedback, and you let the team see if they mesh with them as well. But you mentioned that F word, firing, and I've got an interesting story about hiring and firing. I was working for a company that they brought a new boss in, and he was trying to judge my management experience by how many people I had fired. So he asked me a question. He said, straight up, so how many people have you fired? I said, none. It surprised him. He was looking for a lot of experience, firing a lot of people. It's all a matter of perspective, which I think morality is too. It's all a matter of how you compartmentalize and view things. I told him that I had let plenty people know that they had fired themselves, but I had personally not went in and fired anyone. And so, to your point, I would use the word communication. I can't remember the exact word used a minute ago, but I would use communication. You've got to communicate where they're missing the boat and give them the opportunity to fix it themselves, which is the way I would want to be treated. So you come back to the golden rule.
Well, it goes back to open and honest communication. If you have an individual that is not performing the way you think they should, you can't just let that continue. You communicate with them and you let them know that they're not living up to your expectations or the company's expectations. And once again, it's like you say, if they decide to fire themselves, they won't make any adjustments. If they like where they're working and want to stay on, they'll make the adjustments. And the next time they're evaluated, maybe they are performing up to your standards or the company's standards.
So I think that kind of ties into a topic that I would like to discuss in a workplace, is the idea of tough love in leadership. A lot of times, and this is what I have personally seen as well, leaders who are ineffective don't have a relationship with their employees. It's very much these aren't my expectations, you're not meeting them, I don't care about you anymore. Or it is more of a mindset of, this person is now a tool to me. When that tool is deemed useless, I will throw it away. With that tough love, there has to be some form of care. And again, that goes back to the golden rule, is if you were in that person's shoes, you would rather have that constructive criticism and help that person grow into meeting those standards. So I kind of want to hear some stories as far as tough love goes.
Well, I don't know about stories, but you trigger something when you start talking about tough love for me. In the workplace and professionalism, I don't think you can do that. There's too many societal expectations that you don't be that way in the workplace. There's too much focus on inclusion these days, and that's kind of the opposite. You're pushing people away. I think, though, that I would have no problem at all in the workplace with kicking someone out of the nest and making them fly on their own, but you can do that without having to be tough. Now at home, you got kids. Tough love's a whole other topic for a whole other day.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I'd label that tough love. I would label that as more. I think you have to be encouraging, and you have to push people out of the nest to make them fly.
So, John, in your experience, what makes an effective leader, or how were you an effective leader when you were in your positions?
I've spoken about this before in several different venues, but one of the best managers that I ever had, when he came to work for the company, he told them that this was in the IT field. He said, "I don't know everything there is to know about IT. Don't pretend to." He said, "What I do is I manage people." And he was telling everybody that when he came on board, and I really didn't realize what that meant. But he was an expert at building on people's strengths and minimizing their weaknesses. And it showed in his department because everybody respected him. If someone was not as strong as he thought they were, he would do whatever he could to get them help. He didn't leave them out on an island by themselves. And to this day, like I say, I think he was the best manager I ever had because he knew people and he knew how to develop them.
Well, why do you think a lot of the companies have steered away from that? I mean, I know several companies just firsthand who have branched out in their leadership team to get people who are no longer people managers. They're either process managers, or they're so fiscally minded that the people don't matter anymore. It's the money that matters. So is it greed, or is there something else tied to it?
So you got at least two dynamics going on there. One is it's got to start at the top, and what's the company culture? Your executive leadership has to set that. So the other aspect is the way the company's growth is, whether it's a startup company or a established enterprise. In the established enterprise, a lot of times you promote people from within because they're doing a good job. They might have done a great job, but they don't know how to lead people. They don't know how to motivate. So, you got at least those two factors going on.
I fully agree with that. It's a cultural thing. It depends on what your leadership determines that they need at the particular time. Do they need to push people specifically for a single task, or do they need to develop those people to take leadership roles in the future? And it's just kind of hard to determine that, as an individual manager.
Now we jumped to your question, Mikey. We jumped to our experience, which was usually in corporate America, but there's a whole nother aspect of leadership that's outside of the workplace,
Mm-hmm.
and you can show leadership in your household. You can show leadership in a fraternity, a nonprofit,
A charitable organization, yeah.
So my experience is that if you can lead volunteers who are not in it to pay their bills, then you can lead anyone. And that almost ought to be a prerequisite to any kind of leadership position.
Well, I'm going to jump a little off. I don't say off topic, but you're talking about there's different forms of leadership, or there's different places where leadership is present. Well, my history or my current experience is in education, and you have a teacher who leads anywhere from 15 to 30 plus kids every day. But on top of that, you have a lead teacher in each grade. And on top of that, you have assistant principals, counselors, and principals. And what my point to all of this is, a lot of these leadership standards, or the idea of morality and leadership, are pretty you can easily exchange them from one position to another. If you have skills on people management, for example, if you can build those relationships, if you can help people determine their strengths and their weaknesses, and you help them as if you would want to be helped if you were in their position, then almost any organization can greatly benefit just from a mindset change of their leadership. And I feel like the world now is so money hungry that we stepped away from people development, and we're kind of drifting off into just, which has always been a greedy world, I will say that, but it's just, I think it's more extreme now than it has been in the last 60 years.
I'm not sure I agree with that. I think that we live in a country that has, it's economy driven, so you can't say that money is not involved with everything, but it's like they say, money makes the world go round. Everybody that is in a leadership role, as far as the economy is concerned, this goes back to my belief that the trickle-down theory of economics works. You've got people who have multiple businesses making billions of dollars a year, but you have to look at everybody below that, all the levels of management, all the levels of employees, all the levels, all the way down to whoever makes the boxes to put things in. Each one of those levels contributes to the economy. Now, whether those people that are entry level, I won't say they're at the bottom of the totem pole, but they're the entry level people. If you are a good manager of those people, hopefully they will climb that chain and show leadership capabilities, and the experience that they have taken from the people that they have worked for and they've reported to can help them develop people below them, and the further up the chain they go, the more people they can influence.
So, Mikey, you made a reference a while ago to morality in leadership. I think that you can have varying degrees of morality in the leaders you put in those positions, but I don't know that morality itself can be put into leadership.
Elaborate.
So, like I say, it comes down to the person, the leader themselves. Leadership is more of a mindset, a deliverable. Some people have more talent or skill at it than others. But morality itself doesn't change the actual leadership. The morality of the leader is very important. Because if you try to use morality as the tool itself to lead, now you're using it to influence or to have an agenda.
Right.
Like, for instance, I know we probably have future episodes that'll be specifically on things like religion, but religion uses morality, not the other way around.
Interesting. Yeah, I can agree with that. I think what I would like to come out of this episode is what makes an effective leader. Because if people are going to listen to this episode, what do we want them to get out of it? And I think what would be good for us is, we have different experiences in different areas in our lives, but we all have really good stories of leadership and really bad stories of leadership. And what are those things that make people good leaders, and what are those things that make them bad leaders, and how are each one tied to the morality of that person? So I can give some example. I used to work at Chick-fil-A, which, if you haven't heard of Chick-fil-A, you probably live under a rock, especially in this country. But Chick-fil-A was always dedicated to building people up. They were always about building one team, which is something else I want to talk about here in a minute.
And Chick-fil-A is not a sponsor of this podcast.
It is not. But if anybody from Chick-fil-A is listening and they want to sponsor, definitely let me know. But anyways, Chick-fil-A, when I worked there, I was only there for 6 months, but somebody saw something in me that they wanted to help me develop. And it was a form of leadership. They pushed me into a leadership development program. They actually built the program while I was there, and I helped a little bit as far as shaping it up. And I went through this leadership training, and every book that they made me read, every lesson that they put me through was building one team by building relationships with individuals, building relationships with whole teams, building relationships with customers, and then, again, with the golden rule, treating them as if you were the same way that you would want to be treated. So it's building them up to achieve their highest goals, their highest aspirations. And if that meant that they were going to leave the company, then you would have what's the word I'm looking for here? You would almost be fulfilled. They're achieving their goals, because Chick-fil-A for a lot of people is not that long-term career. It's just a stepping stone to get them there. Which, in my opinion, is something that we can look at as something moral, is to not only help somebody to help whatever organization we're part of, but help them to achieve their individual success. I think that's what Chick-fil-A did very well for me personally.
But are you talking about the morals of the leadership or the people being led? What if you have someone who has no ambition? They don't want to learn. Are you trying to teach them morals, or are you trying to find moral people to put in them roles so you can coach them?
That's probably an individual case. It's a case-by-case thing where you may have somebody who lacks ambition, but we don't know their history. They may have never had a sustainable or effective relationship in their lives, and it just takes one little bit of effort on the leader's part to completely change someone's life. On the flip side, you could have somebody who has zero care in the world. You may not be able to teach them anything, and they're truly only there for a paycheck. I think as far as the morality in the situation goes, as a leader, as an effective leader, you have to determine who those people are and where to best put your efforts in the long run.
And I agree with that too. You can probably separate people into various categories. You've got people who are settlers. They get to a place and that's where they want to stay. You've got the ambitious people that want everything that they can get, as far as money, promotion, success, whatever it is. And part of the problem that I see it as a manager is to, determine how much effort you put into each one of those people, and that's just two categories, and there's multiple categories between those, because they're essentially polar opposites. But determining, what a person wants to achieve, either working for a particular company or plans for the future, if they want a set of skills that can be used elsewhere, it's up to the manager to determine, how much effort you put into each individual as to where they want to be at the end of the day.
Well, one of your tests on the morality of your leadership is going to be, what do you do with those you find that don't have those traits? What do you do with them? What do you do with them for the organization, for the betterment of the bigger team? What are you allowed to do? What's society allow us to do? What's the expectation? Nobody fails, nobody's left behind, or you're not the person for this job. I'm sorry, and that gets into all kind of gray area.
Yeah.
But while we ponder that, let me offer a different perspective here. We're talking about the interrelationship between a leader and an employee. That's what we have focused on thus far. Let's talk more on a grander scale. I think we all can agree on the morality of Adolf Hitler, but he's one of history's greatest leaders. So what's this relationship between morality and leadership?
I'm gonna start calling you Kanye.
Maybe that's another episode. I don't know.
That is going. I think we should make another episode. I think we can explore very deeply about the not only the history of his leadership tactics, but also what he deemed to be moral at the time, because he convinced a whole civilization that not only was this not sinful, but it was warranted, it was needed in order to make a better world. So that's an interesting topic. That's something we had to expand on. Let's go to another topic regarding leadership, and that's not necessarily working with employees below you, but working with management above. So if you're a middle management and you have opportunities to work with, your boss or their peers, there tends to be a lot of politics involved. So let's kind of explore the idea of politics in leadership and the morality behind them.
So I guess the first question there is, do you view politics as a necessary evil or something that can be avoided?
See, I don't have the experience that you two have. I'm pretty young in my career. I haven't had the opportunity to work with a lot of upper management. I have a few stories of dealings with upper management, but I haven't worked with them at the same scale that you two have.
Well, politics in education is different than politics in the corporate world, for one thing. But I would also say that you have had some experience with some nonprofit, some volunteerism, that there's politics there too. It's even a different type of politics. Mm-hmm. Personally, I think as long as people are involved, there's going to be politics involved, and I don't think you can avoid it. I'm in the camp of it's a necessary evil. You got to have the people, so you're going to have the politics to contend with.
And I think it would be wise for us to put a disclaimer that when we talk about politics, we're not talking about just our government politics. We're talking about just the overall, how would you describe it, workings with just people. Honestly, like you said, when it comes to people, there's going to be some form of drama or politics involved.
That's a good definition.
Yeah.
And once again, it's one of those things that you can either determine for yourself whether you want to play the games that are concerned with politics in the workplace or not, and you have to determine whether or not the consequences benefit you. Give you an example. If politics, making certain friendships within an organization would lead to promotions, better pay, better working conditions, the corner office, whatever it is. You got to decide for yourself whether you want to start up those relationships. Some people choose not to. That means they don't get the corner office. They don't get the promotion. They don't get to become managers. But once again, it goes back to well, maybe that's what they want. They don't think that the politics or getting involved in that environment is worth the benefits.
I was actually told on a job one time that they had a regular golf outing for the management level, and I was actually told, because I don't play golf, you don't learn how to play golf, you'll never advance in this company.
Well,
how you feel about that?
Well, I enjoy golf, but to say that I'm a golf player, that doesn't go into it. But, so it didn't. What you're saying didn't apply to me, because I just went along with them and hit the ball when I could. And it's rubbing elbows with people. It's making contacts. It's knowing who your opponents are, knowing who the players are. It has its place. I mean, it's socializing. It's team building, if you want to go that far. But yeah, I see where that kind of thing comes into play. I'd rather go play golf. I'd rather go play golf than go to one of these team building exercises where you have to climb the pole and stand on top of it.
Yeah, I've done that too.
So it's all team building.
Well, there's one phrase you used, and I'm not trying to nitpick people's words, but it triggered a thought for me, is playing the politics.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to think that I'm more aware of the politics and that I make business decisions based on the awareness of those politics. For someone to actually play them, they're utilizing that. They're utilizing the politics to their benefit, which I guess if their benefit is a moral agenda, that's okay. If they're trying to play the politics for self-improvement at the detriment of others, maybe it's not a moral approach.
That goes back to the intent, right?
I think most of this comes back to intent, yes.
Interesting. All right, so we are hitting the 30-minute mark here in just a few minutes. So I'm going to have one more topic, and then we're going to hopefully leave off the episode with advice to either people interested in becoming a leader, people who are in leadership, or how can people be leaders in whatever position they're currently in. I think that's how we should end it. So one topic I want to talk about was building one team. How does a moral or an effective leader build one team as an organization rather than their individualized teams or a set of employees and that one leader? How does that one leader impact the whole company, the whole fraternity, the whole charitable organization, the whole school, whatever it may be?
Wow, that's a deep one.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you go back to hiring, you could either hire people who are a good fit on your team, and if you're going in the right direction as a team, that may be okay. In other cases, you need the diversity. So you want to hire people with all different opinions and then control the debate. So, I mean, I see two schools of thought. But it really comes back to that whole hiring moral people and for the right reasons and intent.
Well, should you start with just your team and hope that good teamwork or whatever it may be, communication, whatever it may be, trickles out? Or do you start with trying to find it, or be with a company that has all of it already? What I'm trying to say is if you have a team currently who, I mean, they could easily use communication skills, for example. You can train them other communication skills, and then that's all you work on, and hope that your efforts for their communication skills is going to help build one team through all the other departments. Or do you say, hey, I want you to learn communication skills, but also we need to start working with this department over here with this thing, or this department over here, and see your work or your efforts in real time?
So you can't start bridging other departments until you've got your own house in order, is what I would first say. But I would also say that you're also talking here about two different kind of leaders, and we hit on this earlier. You've got people you got leaders who lead people and develop teams as people teams, and then you've got leaders who lead processes or lead metrics, some kind of key indexes that the company's following
Project
or whatever.
management.
Right.
Yeah, project management.
They're not so much there to build the team. They can certainly do some of it as a side to their main focus. But I think the enlightened, and again, we're talking corporate world. We still haven't really touched on other aspects of life.
We'll probably have a second episode following up with this one.
But in the corporate world, you can be intentional about developing your people, or you can just say, hey, I've got this business model that I just need warm hands on, and you can develop the processes. So it comes down to the what's the need, what's the direction of the company or where its maturity is, and it also comes to the executive leadership. Do they feel that their people are a valuable resource that could be and should be developed?
And if you have the magic bullet that causes teamwork to be perfect, that you can develop a team of people that get along perfectly, have the same goals, you could sell it for $1 billion, because it's one of those things that everybody's working on. Everybody tries to find the best way to develop a team. And it's like Johnny said, there's so many different types of teams that somebody that's good at putting one team together may not be as good at putting another team together. It's an ongoing battle. Everybody knows. Everybody that's ever been in management knows that there's no matter how you put a department together, whether you hire new people, whether you inherit a team, you've always got personality conflicts. You can't have everybody in the team with the same personality. It takes all types to make a team, and putting all those personalities together and developing a common goal is very difficult.
Well, I think on that note, I'm going to ask the final question, then we'll close up for the day. So, in any walk of life, I want you guys to give whoever it may be advice on how to be a better leader in whatever position they're in. I think I'll start with, it all comes down to respect. It's really effective to build relationships with your employees, your teamwork, coworkers, whatever they may be. Build relationships with them, because those relationships are what's going to foster respect. And through that respect, you can be impactful.
Well, respect is a key word. Respect is something that's earned, not given.
Right.
I can name numerous times in my experience where I've respected someone's position but not the person in it. So my advice to that person, as well as to our listeners, would be start with the mirror. If you don't like what you're seeing, other people don't either.
And learn to listen. Feedback from people is invaluable. Don't just talk to people. Listen to what they're saying. Get their. You have to try to separate their emotion, but sometimes emotion helps you out also.
So listen to understand, not listen to hear.
That's it.
Alrighty. Well, that wraps up this episode of Modern Morality. Until next time, have a good day. Thank you for listening to Modern Morality. Please visit our website at modernmoralitymedia.com and leave us some feedback about the show. We look forward to exploring more with you. Until next time.